And of course, first technical difficulty from the afternoon. I was supposed to welcome you guys with the trailer of Andrew Stevenson right away without having us to talk. So I am going to try to do that again. All right. Bear with us. We are getting started this afternoon or not. I don't know. We were so ready and everything was ready to go. Here we are.
Yay.
Bermuda, a volcanic island in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, rising 14,000 feet from the depths. 400 square miles of reefs further north than anywhere else in the world. This is our backyard and our playground. 15 miles offshore Bermuda, Challenger Bank is like an oasis in the middle of the desert for a very rich and diverse marine life. This mid-ocean seamount lies in the middle of the humpback's migratory route, from their winter breeding grounds in the Caribbean to their summer feeding grounds up north. Many of these whales are not simply passing by. But what are they doing here? Bermuda provides an ideal platform to observe the humpback's little understood pelagic lives. Never before seen aerial and underwater footage provide important insights to understanding these iconic marine mammals. What if the whales were very intelligent, caring, feeling, and sympathetic animals? What if their social lives were highly complex? If they are so much like us, don't they deserve the right to live in peace too? The Secret Lives of the Humpbacks is a 43-minute, family-friendly documentary that brings awareness, educates, and inspires. It provides a unique window into the life cycle of the humpback whales and their mid-ocean migration. The beauty of Bermuda and the magic of its marine life take center stage, highlighting the importance of protecting and taking responsibility for our environment and its treasures. Our ecosystem is at risk. Humpbacks face perils such as plastics, noise pollution, and entanglement. Knowledge brings us all the power to build a legacy for future generations. Let's take the plunge together and discover the secret lives of the charismatic humpbacks.
Indeed. Let's take the plunge. Thank you, Andrew, for being with us this afternoon and happy World Oceans Day. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You must be dead tired. This has been a long day for you.
You know, it's been so amazing though, talking about something that you're passionate about and sharing things that you like. I think you forget what comes up with it. So I'm super excited to have you with us this afternoon. And yeah, I think this is a great introduction to our topic, next topic of the day, and those beautiful giants that are cruising our waters. It's getting towards it's technically kind of the end of the whale season, or
No, it's definitely the end of the whale season. Yeah, the whales would come here through April. The numbers would diminish pretty quickly. So it's about a 3-week peak season, end of March, first half of April. But no, they're long gone.
thank you for that, because as some people always ask, like, well, when are they coming? Where are they? Are they here all the time? So we don't really need to introduce you, Andrew, too much. I think if people are like whales, they probably know you. But I would like to know a little bit more if when you were young you were like longingly looking at the shore and wanting to be in the water from a very young age. I mean, what brought you to do this, to study whales here in Bermuda?
Ah, that's a really good question because I didn't long to be in the ocean when I was a kid. It all happened as an adult when I had a child, Elsa, and my wife, Dr. Carter, decided that she would carry on working and I'd be the parent at home. And we lived on Great Bay Beach, and we were walking on Great Bay Beach. Elsa was not yet 3, and we saw a whale breach right off the breakers. And Elsa said to me, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a whale." And it's hard for me to imagine this now, but I did not know what kind of whale it was. I just knew it was a whale. And she said, "Why does it do that?" And I said, "Well, let's go up to the house and find out." And this is the important message that I would like to pass to all the young kids out there listening to this. Within half an hour of being on the computer, I realized that being in Bermuda, I was sitting on a gold mine of information, that this was a perfect platform providing a window into the pelagic, meaning the mid-ocean lives of the humpback whales. There's nowhere else quite like it. Between Hawaii and Alaska, there's nothing. Once they leave Hawaii or leave Alaska, nobody knows what they're doing. But here in the North Atlantic, when they leave the Caribbean, where they go down to breed and to calve, and then head up north, we're right smack in the middle of their migration, in the middle of the ocean. And we have a mid-ocean seamount right offshore. So if the kids are lucky, I drop them off at school and I'm on the mid-ocean seamount Challenger bank. And if they're very, very lucky, I pick them up at the end of the day. So very quickly, I realized that I was sitting on a gold mine of information. And I decided, in my infinite wisdom, to make an underwater film about the humpback whales. So I had no background in marine mammalogy, marine science. I had no background in filmmaking. I had never held an underwater camera before, never mind a big video camera. And I decided I'd give myself 3 years to make this underwater film. And people said to me, it's impossible. You'll never get enough footage of humpback whales swimming by Bermuda. And I'm just going to share some.
Yeah, take us through the journey. Take us through the journey. So
I'll do that, yeah.
Because I think I would like to. I mean, you know, some people have seen your images, but it's nice to see the history and see, you know, your first ones and then what you're up to today. Yeah. So
I'm going to go back. This was 2007, and I had spent 200 hours on the water, and I did not have a minute of underwater footage of humpback whales. In fact, I would find whales about 1 out of every 3 excursions that I went out looking for them, because at that time I did not know where they were. I did not know how to find them. And it was the end of the season, and the fishermen told me that the whales had all gone. And I was filming some bottlenose dolphins quite far offshore. And at a certain point, after filming them bow riding the pressure wave on the bow of the boat, I got in the water with them, and I started filming them underwater, and then I could hear their clicking sounds changed. And I looked below me, and there was a whale. And this is the whale that we now call magical whale. And he had come out of absolutely nowhere. He approached the boat. I was already in the water, so I didn't have any sense of fear because he had approached me. The boat was stationary. It had been stationary for some time. And this huge 45-foot, 40-ton animal approached me, as you can see. And this was the beginning of a 2-hour encounter, Alex, that changed my life forever. Often this whale, magical whale, would lie right below me as if he was listening to my heartbeat. I could have reached out and touched him many times over.
That must have been incredible.
And often he would come right up to me and just look at me like this. Now, I've seen lots of underwater footage of whales. I've spent some time with Flip Nicklin from National Geographic. And here's another whale that suddenly comes, and everything changed when this other whale approached, because clearly magical whale, the first whale, was very agitated that another whale had come to share this experience. And the two of them started tussling. And when you have 45 tons swirling around you and they dive, I would get sucked down with them, and I disappeared. The people on the boat, my crew on the boat, couldn't see where I'd gone. And at a certain point, it became quite agitated, both whales not fighting each other, but displaying to each other, that I took the precaution of getting back in the boat.
Well, is it dangerous to get in the water with these guys?
Yes, thank you. It's very clearly dangerous to get in the water with these whales. Now, this whale here, the second whale, look at it very closely. See the tail? All right. So once that second whale disappeared, magical whale came up to me perfectly calmly once again and just carried on his behavior as before, very familiar, within 3 feet of me. And I should point out, Alex, that I do have a research permit from the government of Bermuda to do what I do, because it is against the guidelines to get in the water with whales. And I had benefited from having Flip Nicklin from National Geographic and professionals down in the Caribbean show me what kind of whales to get in the water with, how to get in the water with them, to minimize any danger, because very clearly these are huge animals and they are and can be dangerous. But by and large, they are very benign, and nobody has been killed by a humpback whale unless it was entangled and threatened. So this whale would dance around the boat, and twice other boats came to see what was going on, and both times magical whale disappeared when the other boats came. So I took advantage of his disappearance to change the digital cards in the camera. And once I changed the digital cards and once the other boats disappeared, magical whale approached my boat like a tame pet dog, except this was a 45-ton wild animal. And I slipped back in the water again, and the encounter carried on as it had before. And in fact, it seemed to get even closer and closer as magical whale approached within feet of me. And the two of us spent some time just looking at each other, eyeball to eyeball. And I can tell you that it has been one of the most moving experiences of my life. When you look at my underwater footage, it almost looks CGI, computer generated images. But when you see the video footage, this was done by Kevin Horsfield on the boat with my other camera, you recognize how small I am and how big and close that whale is to me. But again, with the very wide angle lens on the underwater camera, it sort of looks computer generated. It sort of looks surreal.
I mean, looking at and listening to you, rendering this encounter, I think it's completely understandable how you got completely hooked. It's just like, wow.
Well, you're right, because when I started it, it was an intellectual exercise. It was to make, to challenge myself by making an underwater film, which I'd never done before. But once this encounter happened, I became passionate about the humpback whales. And for 14 years now, I have been looking for magical whale, as has everybody else in the North Atlantic. So I share my fluke IDs with other whale enthusiasts and scientists, anybody who's got a catalog, and nobody has seen this whale outside of Bermuda. So I'm guessing that magical whale goes to a place where there are not any photographers, and that would be Labrador, Greenland, Iceland to a certain extent. But the other whale that was with magical whale, that whale was first identified in 1976 by Professor Hal Whitehead when they first started doing these fluke IDs. So, and the other whale, I'll get into that later. But for a week, Alex, I could not sleep after this experience. My wife had to give me sleeping pills just to shut my mind off, because I kept thinking, what was that whale thinking when he approached me like that? What was going on in that massive brain? And it took me about a month before I could even talk about it, because it was just so moving to me.
Well, you're still looking for her. So I mean, it's you can't just like erase such a moment, I guess, because 13 years later,
Yep.
you're still looking for her, right? How does it work?
Him. Magical whale's a him.
It's a him. I know, but whale is baleine in French, and it's feminine. So I can't help it. It's going to be she. I'm sorry.
Mais on peut parler en français.
I knew, you know what, and I knew you were. J'étais sûre que tu allais dire ça. J'étais sûre. No, we should keep going in English.
Okay. All right. So, so for 14 years, I've been doing this. I call it the Humpback Whale Film and Research Project. And there's my underwater camera. It weighs 70 pounds. It cost $60,000. It's entirely useless now because the technology has advanced so much since then. So it's sitting on my desk now as a memento. And I've had other encounters, close encounters with humpback whales, but none of them have been quite, well, nowhere near as intense as that encounter with magical whale. But what I realized over the next 3 years, as I got more and more footage, underwater footage of the whales, was I was spending 99% of my time observing the whales and just 1% actually filming them. And although this looks like we've approached the boat, the boat has approached the whale, this whale was actually using the stationary boat to get rid of a male, a suitor. And so here you can see the underside of this female whale's tail or fluke. And it's got a black and white pattern on it. And every humpback whale has got a unique black and white pattern that is as unique as our fingerprints. And that's how we identify these whales. So I have identified, while pursuing this passion of finding magical whale again, I have identified, if you can believe it, through the help of Judy Klee, whom many of you will know, and a colleague in Saint-Pierre-Miquelon, Roger Etcheberry, we have identified, we've identified 1,750 whales.
And I think I've heard it's the biggest catalog of whales. Is it?
I think this is the biggest catalog of whales, Alex, from one person. Mm-hmm. And it's the biggest catalog of whales from one place. So
from one place, yeah. I think it's very important to realize that.
It is important to realize that. So it's a doubly unique, but what makes it even more unique is it's the only catalog like this that's done in the middle of the ocean. If it weren't for Bermuda being in the middle of the ocean, enabling me to get out on a small boat 15 miles offshore, I'd have to be on an ocean-going vessel. So it's been relatively easy for me to get all these fluke IDs. And another reason, as I go into this, another reason that I've been able to get so many fluke IDs is because we've got whales coming from all different places through Bermuda. So we've matched our whales to North Carolina, all the way up to, if you can believe it, Franz Josef Land in northern Russia. Wow. So we're getting a whole range of these whales coming by here. Now, that catalog has got these individuals, and we meticulously collect the IDs. And do you remember the whale that was fighting with magical whale?
Yep.
Okay, so magical whale has never been seen outside of Bermuda. This whale was seen only once. We call him Candle, for obvious reasons. This whale was identified in 1976 by Professor Hal Whitehead, and it has not been seen anywhere else. But the irony is that it's the whale that we have seen the most in Bermuda. And I have sometimes recognized this whale just by its behavior. So yeah, this was
you don't need to look anymore. You just know your whales, you know, it's just like.
Well, the behavior, this whale had some very peculiar behavior, I can tell you. So this whale, this was in 2007, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2018, 2019. It's not a great photo, and it was taken by a fisherman with his iPhone, but it was good enough to make the ID. So thank goodness he sent that in, because we did not ID Candle that year. And then this year, Alex, somebody sent me this photograph, and I recognized Candle straight away. And I wrote back to him and I said, how in the world did you do this? Because you're not supposed to be out on a boat. And he said, well, I live in Tuckerstown, and I flew my drone when I saw some whales, and I got this fluke ID. So we got another freebie this year of Candle.
I think, yeah, I think that's the perfect transition, because, you know, you mentioned drones, and I think now you do use drone more and more in your research, right? I
do. I'm sharing this database with the University of Edinburgh, and we're hoping to extrapolate, tease out the data so that we can make an assessment of the humpback whale population in the North Atlantic. But you're quite right. Over the last 4 years, I had been using a drone to fly over the whales, and I should point out that I do have a Bermuda Civil Aviation Authority commercial license to fly a drone. And this drone, the aerial footage is mind-boggling. Now, everybody's seen a photograph of a whale breaching, but have you ever seen it look like this? And that was a whale that I filmed last year over a 9-day period. The aerial footage provides us with exquisite detail of the whales. Now, if you were looking at this from a boat, you would see nothing at all until the whale blows. There's the calf blowing, there's the mother blowing. But with the aerial footage, you can see every detail. So I can sex the whale, I can tell if it's male or female by the scarring or lack of scarring. So this female has no scars on it. She's accompanied by a calf. I can see she's a right-handed whale because she's got the feeding scars on the right-hand side of her. And down below, you can see there's an escort, and that's a male, and I can tell it's a male by the scarring on its back and by the scarring on the white tubercles. They have tubercles on their head, which has got a little vibressa or hair in it, which provides them with extra sensory information. The yellow things that you see in the water there are sargassum. So you can see you can get an extraordinary amount of additional information out of the aerial footage. Now, what I'm going to show you here is aerial footage taken over a period of a week. And these are 7 whales, a female, the light colored one that you can see in the top there, accompanied by her primary escort, and 5 other males. And again, I can tell they're males by the scarring. There's the escort chasing the other males away from his female. You can see the female very clearly there. She's lighter colored. She has scars at the base of the peduncle, the body where it joins the tail. Here you can see one of the males is blowing bubbles back, and the escort is blowing bubbles back at it and chasing it away.
What a show, what a show.
What a show indeed. And you know what, again, from a boat, you would see nothing right now, nothing at all. Only when they
know there are 7 whales. I mean, you would try to count them, but you would just really not know exactly what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. So there you can see the female. She's lighter colored. You can see the scarring at the peduncle. She's actually looking at the drone. They're very aware of the drone. The underwater footage provides a lot of information, but it's only seconds long because the whales, generally speaking, are swimming by. And there's no way that I can swim as fast as a whale. But with the drone, the boat is nowhere near the whales. It's about half a kilometer away. So this was filmed on a certain day, and a week later, I was out on Challenger Bank, about 10 miles away from where that first footage was taken. And we had been out there for hours, and there were absolutely no whales out there. It was very late in the season. And suddenly 2 whales approached us out of nowhere, and they started dancing around the boat. Now, I could tell that these were both males, but they were acting in this sort of bonding ritual as a male and a female might act, providing us an insight into the complexity of their lives. And from their fluke IDs, we realized that these 2 whales were 2 of the 5 males that had been with the male and female a week earlier. So they danced around each other and around the boat because the boat was completely stationary the whole time. And from out of nowhere, a 3rd whale appeared.
Question for you, Andrew.
We realized that this was
Can you hear me?
3rd whale of the 5 whales that we'd seen the previous week.
Can you hear me, Andrew?
Yep.
Question that came in, why do they blow bubbles?
Ah, good question. So they blow bubbles for a number of reasons. Mostly it's the male escort threatening any other males to stay away. But sometimes they blow bubbles underneath my boat, and that's just to attract attention. I think sometimes it's trying to get me to get back in the water with them. If I get out of the water because I'm cold, It's happened a number of times. They'll actually come under the boat and blow bubbles, and you can hear the hull reverberating. Now you can see 4 whales dancing around each other. And please, Alex, go ahead and ask me any questions.
Well, another one came in. Has there been advances in automating the process of matching flukes? Or does it have to be done manually?
Yeah, there's a lot of big brains that have gone into using AI, artificial intelligence, to try to do the matching for us. Now, I'm just going to interrupt here. These 4 whales suddenly took off, and with the drone, I followed them, and I realized that they were now back with the male and female that we had seen a week earlier. So these 6 now, one of the whales had disappeared. They're blowing bubbles, you see, to scare off the other whales.
Yeah.
Yes, there is artificial intelligence trying to do the matching, but I'll tell you what, it's not as good as having a dedicated person like Judy or Roger doing it. The next day, Alex, we were out there and we could hear a whale singing through the hull of the boat. And we stopped and I got in the water and I recorded it and filmed it. And after about 20 minutes, this lone male singer was approached by another whale. And through the fluke IDs, we realized it was the same male and female from the day before and a week earlier. So the male did 3 breathing cycles, and then the male and female took off together in a northeasterly direction at the same speed, 6 knots, and it looked like they were on their migration north.
Do you have anything special that you use to study the sounds and the songs and all that?
You must have ESP. How did you know I was going to show that? You're good. So yes, exactly. How do we record these? I've had 4 of these military grade hydrophones. I've still got one out there on Challenger Bank. The one was just sent back to Canada last week. And we have the recordings from 2 of the hydrophones that are now being analyzed by a PhD student at the University of Edinburgh. So these have been recording the humpback whales for 6 months. And I've had that done at, here, I'll let you listen to it. Are you ready? This is called a spectrogram. And so that's the song that was at 1:49 in the morning on April the 5th, 20 miles offshore. And here's an interesting little video. This video shows the amount of humpback singing going on from April the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and you see it starts to diminish. So this also helps me to assess when the whales leave Bermuda.
Completely. I think that's a visual, like not even having like any footage or any visual, like sighting, that's telling you the story right there. Indeed.
Exactly, yeah. So what we do with all this data, again, without having had any education in marine science at all, I'm invited to give these poster presentations at the Society for Marine Mammalogy conferences, biennial conferences. I've done them at Quebec City, Halifax, and last December in Barcelona, Spain. And again, I just want to point out, Alex, that we've just got a huge amount of information right on our doorsteps in Bermuda. And for any young person who wants to study marine sciences, this is the place to do it, because you're going to have access to all kinds of data and information that people just cannot get as easily as we can here.
Well, I hope you're sharing this. I hope you're sharing this on the international scene everywhere, because this is truly amazing, you know. And beyond the fact that yes, you can make movies and go to festivals and it looks really cool, on the scientific, side, this is really invaluable information.
So how do I fund all of this stuff you were about to ask me, I think?
No, I was not going to ask. I was not like money and research, and it's always very, very touchy. So I was not going to ask that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, Alex, it is very difficult raising money for research. So what I have done is I've leveraged the deliverables that I had done. That was my first film, Where the Whales Sing. Then I did a book published in the UK and USA, Whale Song. I've got another book coming out in 3 months in France, and hopefully it'll be translated into English or back into English. And then, of course, the trailer that you saw, Secret Lives of the Humpbacks. So those have helped me to fund my research, as well as grants from the Atlantic Conservation Partnership. They've been consistent in giving me support, and as well as individuals. Numerous individuals have been very generous in providing support for the work that I do. So if you want to find out more information, you can go to whalesbermuda.com, and I'm going to open it up to any questions. And rather than just have a screen like that, I'll show some video footage, okay? So if you've got any questions, Alex, just go ahead.
That's cool. Well, there's one that came in that I had already scribbled down to make sure to ask you, is that have you seen any calving? Like, have you seen the birth of any calves here in Bermuda?
That's a really good question. Nobody in the world has actually witnessed a humpback calf being born. But over a 6-year period, I have seen tiny calves in Bermuda in December or January. And that's a really good indication that the humpback whales are using Bermuda waters as a calving ground again. They probably did that many centuries ago, before Bermuda whalers started targeting the baby humpbacks, because it was very easy to harpoon a curious baby humpback, and then the mother would never leave it, and eventually they would be able to kill the mother. So yes, I think that the Bermuda waters are once again being used as a calving ground. And very clearly from the footage and what I've seen, it's definitely becoming a breeding ground as well.
Okay, I have some students who've been asking if it was dangerous to go out whale watching.
No, it's not dangerous at all to go whale watching in a boat, especially if you don't chase the whales. I would say that for the whales, it's dangerous if there's a lot of boats around. The best way to find whales, Alex, is to be still. And here you're going to see the kind of encounters that I can have because I don't chase after the whales. This is just sitting here. I'm about 20 miles offshore. And these are 4 whales that have come to mug the boat. In this kind of situation, it isn't dangerous, although you've got to see some of these shots here. The whales actually do hit the boat. They make a mistake. Bang, there, you see that? Mm-hmm. So they're not dangerous per se, but they are very large animals, and you do have to be very careful with them.
Well, I think it's good to mention though that, I mean, here in Bermuda we have, I mean, is it like, are we over watching the whales? I mean, compared to other places that is like a huge commercial activity to go whale watching, I think here in Bermuda we're pretty careful, and we're okay, aren't we?
Do you want a diplomatic answer to that, or the truth?
I don't know.
You know what, the whale watching boats, the professional whale watching boats are absolutely great. What is disturbing is the number of small private boats going out there. And anybody who has been out whale watching probably has their own bad experiences to relate. And sometimes you'll find 8 to a dozen boats around a mother and calf in shallow water. And that is not good. So we do have to be respectful of the guidelines. And if you do follow the guidelines, then the whales are not going to be harassed or stressed. But there is a $10,000 fine for disturbing humpback whales.
Cool. All right. So I haven't seen any other questions coming in. It doesn't mean that more people are not going to watch this, later on. And if you don't mind, maybe keeping a little eye on the Facebook page, Andrew, and if other people have questions when they're watching this, as I think people are going to watch us from other places as well. Maybe you will have a couple of answers for people. We have a Seabirds Live that's going to happen from Rabbit Island any minutes now. So I think we should set the stage free and say big thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I hope, being World Ocean Day, we can think about everything we do in the ocean that can, create problems and threats for those gentle giants. But I'm really happy we're not fishing them in most part of the world. It's still happening. There's still a fight that we have to do. But being like sound pollution and other issues, hopefully we can keep working on that to try to make sure they are recovering and thriving. So thank you so much, Andrew. And if you want to put, in the comments where to find more information, that would be awesome. And we're going to say goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you, Andrew.